Hey everybody, it's Vika from Bad Health Monologues. So today I'm going to focus on bringing awareness to abusive relationships that are not necessarily physically abusive, that can also be mentally abusive. Emotional abuse and verbal abuse, very invisible oftentimes. I'm going to talk about my relationship and where it sort of falls on the cycle of abuse. I'm going to sort of give like a little bit of an explanation of what my relationship was like with this person, and I'm going to give a pretty concrete example of an argument that I had that happened in a very specific moment. And I'm also going to talk about the moment where I kind of broke free from all of this, and I know that my situation was really different because I hadn't been with this person for tons and tons of time, and I didn't have kids with this person, I didn't live with them, I was just sort of like a high school boyfriend. I know that some situations are more difficult, but I feel like this started really young for me. I was in high school and I was abused by somebody on an emotional scale, and I think that it's good to talk about these things, especially if you can get out of there before you get any sort of like attachment or emotional links that it runs a lot deeper, or kids living together, purchases that you've made together, things like that can kind of complicate a breakup. So if you can catch it early, that's really the best case scenario. If you don't, though, there are people and organizations and therapists out there that will help you leave these kinds of relationships. My relationship with this guy, so background about me, I was really bullied in high school. I didn't really have tons of friends per se. I had been bullied from grade 7 up until grade 11. This was in grade 12. I had friends, more friends than I had. I wasn't really being bullied that much anymore, but I was still suffering from like really low self-confidence from having been bullied for so long. Like, it wasn't fixed yet. I hadn't seen a therapist, I hadn't done any counseling for this, I hadn't done none of this. Everybody had a boyfriend, and I was like, oh my god, a boyfriend, I would like a boyfriend. I had so many online boyfriends. I kind of wanted a real boyfriend, and I kind of felt like I was ready for a real boyfriend. Essentially what happened was one of my friends said, hey, I know a guy that's like pretty cool, pretty chill, he's really sweet, I think you'd really like him. I'm gonna give you his MSN, because that was still a thing. I'm gonna give you his MSN, and you can talk to him, meet him, and whatever, and go on a date or something. So I did. I went on a few dates with this person, and he made me feel like the most amazing person in the world. He would tell me I was beautiful. He would tell me that I was really sweet and caring, and he was also a gamer, so we sort of had a lot to talk about on that front, and it was pretty cool. He started buying me stuff and telling me I was so perfect, and I believed him. I believed every single word this person said because I had no self-confidence. At some point, things started changing. That's when the abuse started poking its like little evil head out, and at first I thought they were just, the classic arguments in a relationship, because I would fight back. I was like, what the hell, like, man, like, this is not normal, like, you can't just argue with me about this kind of stuff, that's weird. So I would fight back, and eventually I stopped fighting back, because that was pretty terrifying in of itself. Now that you sort of like understand like where I was emotionally and how the relationship started, I'm gonna talk about the most typical cycle of abuse weirdness that you can sort of get in a relationship over. Sometimes it's really over nothing, and that's what I want to kind of portray. So his dad came back from Florida and had gotten him a PlayStation 3, which was sort of a big deal at the time. It had a very smooth, shiny cover, and he had kept the sort of like, like the thin styrofoam blankets that these devices come in to cover it so it wouldn't get scratched. I never personally cared much for material things. My phone has a crack in it. This has never bothered me. But for him, it was very important. So I remember the night before we went to bed, he said, are we good to go to bed? I said, yes. We had gone to bed, and then the next day we got up, we went out to go somewhere, we came back home, and then he said, where's my thin styrofoam blanket thing? I said, I have no idea. I really don't know where it is. Like, I didn't pay attention to where you put it. This is not something I really pay attention to in general, so I have no idea. And then he realized that the cleaning lady had come and threw it out because she thought it was garbage, and it was like on the floor instead of like on the PlayStation, it was on the floor. He lost it. Like at this point, he was legitimately throwing some sort of tantrum. He was throwing things and yelling and stomping his feet angrily, and it was all directed towards the only person that happened to be around, which was me. He was yelling and saying it was my fault, that I should have reminded him to put it on the PlayStation, that it was my job as his girlfriend to make sure that like his stuff wasn't gonna get ruined. All of this weirdo crazy talk stuff. And then of course at the time I just started crying because I was like, this is so stupid, like why am I getting yelled after for something so silly, so meaningless? And then he just sort of like apologized and said like, look, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you like that. I'm really pissed because like my PlayStation 3 is gonna get scratched and this matters a lot to me. Like I didn't really like yell at you that bad, like it's just like I didn't hit you or anything like that, so like let's just forget that happened. That was pretty effed up. And then of course there was the calm of like he got me a game and like for my Wii and told me like, hey, not a big deal, like look, I'm really sorry. I don't remember what it was. He had bought me so much stuff throughout our relationship to apologize to me. To bring in this cycle of abuse, you know, the tension building is the first step, which was the night before when we played on the PlayStation 3. Even right before the act, like whenever he said like, hey, like what's going on here, like where's the thing, like this is also still tension building, because I was like, hey, I don't know, like maybe, and I thought by saying like maybe the maid threw it out, that putting the blame on somebody else might help me. It did not. And then there's the incident, which was the actual like yelling, screaming, throwing of things, blaming me for forgetting to put a styrofoam cover on a console. I don't know. And then the reconciliation phase and the calm phase, which is like reconciliation is like he apologized, he bought me some stuff, and then the calm phase is like the honeymoon phase where everything was okay and we were cuddling and everything was fine. It can be really stupid, mundane things like this that just make no sense whatsoever at all. I believe I got yelled at over something so stupid ever. Like now that I'm out of that relationship, obviously. And now I guess I'm going to talk about the breakup with this person, because this is when I broke the cycle of abuse. So we're going to start by putting the tension building. He had me drive and go buy him a sandwich at Subway. And he said, don't get me anything that looks like jizz for sauce. At that point, I was really paranoid, because what does that even mean, or what does that even imply? It was like vague on purpose for whatever reason. So I remember I got him a sweet chicken teriyaki sub. Like this is how fresh in my memory this moment is. I remember the exact sub that I got him, and it's been 7 years. I got back to the car. I told him what I got him. He seemed to be okay with this, but I was still obviously nervous because the abuses had been getting a lot worse towards the end of the relationship. Then we get to his place. He opens it up. He looks at me and he says, what the hell is this? And I remember going, oh fuck, here we go. You know, like it's, and at this point I was so done with it. I was so done with being yelled at for like stupid things. And I remember sitting there looking at him and I'm like, it's a sandwich. It's a sandwich, a sweet chicken teriyaki sandwich, like I told you in the car. And he's like, the sauce looks like jizz. I don't want to eat this. Are you that useless that you can't get me a sandwich and follow my instructions? So he said, you wasted my money on this sub, and it's not even with something that I want to eat. It's disgusting. I don't like this. And then at some point, I snapped. And then I understood, because I was taking sociology classes at the time, I understood right away like what they meant whenever like people who leave abusive relationships sometimes kill their partners. Like at the time I was ready to like punch him in the face. I really was. I was ready to do physical harm to this person to like get out of this relationship, because I had so much pent up anxiety and anger constantly from this relationship, and like even now as I'm talking about it, you can see that I'm angry about it because it just made no sense, and there was just no sense to it at all. So the incident started, he started yelling at me, and I just put my hands down on the chair and I said, "You're gonna eat the sandwich." And he said, "Excuse me?" And I remember saying, "Yeah, you're gonna eat it. You're gonna eat the sandwich. You're gonna put it in your face, or I'm gonna force it down your throat." And he got scared, and he ran downstairs in his room. And I remember taking the sandwich. It was like unwrapped, and I remember taking it and like going downstairs and like just throwing it at the door, demanding he ate it. I, at this point, was not rational Vika in any way, shape, or form. I was purely running on adrenaline. I was seeing red. It's happened twice in my life, and twice is twice too many. And I remember going upstairs, and I was, at this point, I came down from the adrenaline rush, and I was crying. I was crying. I was like, oh my god, what did I do? I like threatened someone physically. This is not like me. Like, this is not me at all. This was terrifying. It was just such a terrifying position to be in. To be the victim that was like losing it. I, at this point, said, I'm gonna turn into a monster if I don't leave. And I don't want to treat anybody the way that he treated me. And I remember calling his mom. His mom drove me home. And I never saw this person ever again after that. So I broke the cycle of abuse. It was one of the harder things I've had to do. He tried to apologize after the fact, and I ignored his messages. I blocked him on MSN. I removed him from Facebook. I removed him from any social media at the time that was around. I wanted to pick up his stuff. And I said, no, like, I don't even want to see you ever again. A week later, he threatened to shoot at my school to my best friend. I had to open up about the abuse when I wasn't necessarily ready to the police to explain that this person did indeed have anger issues, and this person did indeed have, you know, his dad had guns at home. He was a hunter. So I remember my parents crying, wondering like what the hell had happened, and like how I had stayed in this relationship, and how they had no idea that he was emotionally manipulative and abusive like that. It's this kind of stuff that like it stays with you. Like, as you can tell, like I'm telling you guys this story, I'm being really honest about the story, and it never left me. It, even if it was for a short period of time, it changed me. It changed the way that I interacted with other people up to the last year when I started seeing a therapist, and she found out about this guy and what he had done to me. So I just sort of like had dealt with this on my own until I saw a therapist, and she sort of helped me cope and like explain the situation to me, and explain that some of my behavior actually was really altered by just those 7 months. There's really no too soon time to leave somebody that's going to be abusive to you in any way, shape, or form. Like, it can change you. It changed me in 7 months, you know? I hope that, like, this, like, kind of concrete information on how I left my relationship, how I broke the cycle of abuse myself, you know, you don't need to feel guilty if you are that angry whenever you are in a relationship like that. Like, you are legitimately being gaslighted the whole time you're in this relationship. So I hope that, like, this kind of gave you guys a little bit more of an understanding of how mundane and boring and silly the abuse can seem sometimes. Like, even as somebody that's being abused, you're sort of like, this is so stupid, and I don't understand why they're losing it. I hope that this helped clear things up for some people. I just want to thank you guys for like listening to my story about this, and for, you know, maybe not passing any judgments for the reason why I was with this person. And I hope that actually helps some of you out, honestly. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't know when I'm gonna be posting next. I seem to have been like kind of a social butterfly lately, so I've been really busy during the day, especially now that the weather is really nice outside. I'm actually going outside. My stomach has been feeling a little bit better lately, so I've been able to go outside. But I will definitely keep making videos and try to bring up, you know, some hard to talk about subjects, and try to make it like bite-sized and kind of, you know, not silly, but like realistic. This was something that really happened to me, and it seems really stupid and silly, but it really happened, and it did change me. So that's why I like to put these things out there for other people to maybe share their experiences, or to influence their decisions on how they're going to leave certain experiences. On that, I will tell you all a big cheers. Enjoy your tea, coffee, water, whatever it is that you're drinking, and have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you all another time with another story, and thank you for watching. Bye, guys.